This week's National Week of the Young Child will recognize children and caretakers throughout the country.
The annual event is a way to thank early childhood educators and celebrate young children. Hundreds took part in the festivities right here in Quincy today. WGEM's Claire Edlin shows us how they are marching to the beat of their own drum. Claire?
The Blessing Early Learning Center was just one of many institutions taking part in the Week of the Young Child. And what better way to kick it off than with a parade led by the youngsters themselves? Take a look around. The Quincy Notre Dame drummers, healthcare workers and teachers, these adults and teens, like everyone, were once just as small as these little tykes. But to become the nurses, the musicians, the teachers, the people they are today, they had to learn the foundations first. And that's where these early childhood educators stepped in.
So what we want to do is get kids prepared and ready.
The Week of the Young Child is a way to pay thanks to the caretakers responsible for those building blocks and to celebrate the next generation of talent.
It celebrates children and the importance of early childhood for children to have lifelong success.
For Blessing Early Learning Center's director, Karen Mosley, her 37-year career in early childhood education has been a rewarding pursuit.
I love the children and I get to see all the children, but I also get to get amazing teachers ready and to help these children grow and succeed in life.
Knowing that every school year, her staff is shaping hundreds of these young minds for a bright future. Also included in this week's celebrations at Blessing will be a petting zoo, concert, and a transportation rally. Quincy Notre Dame athletes will also come to talk with the children about sports. Daniel?
All right, thanks, Claire. The Week of the Young Child is sponsored by the National Association for the Education of Young Children. The annual celebration was first established back in 1971.